for the most part, there's probably already a game that you could probably attribute some of these things to.
Right.
But, to have it in its, like in one thing is kind of nice.
It's nice. And to do it your way, it's kind of like why my ongoing project that'll, never go anywhere is to fix the things that I think are wrong in.
That's a defeatist attitude.
No, I mean, because I'm just flat out not working on it.
Oh, well, that's realism then.
That Google Doc just stares at me every day. But, no, because you want to right some wrongs, or you want to fix some things that you think can be done better.
Right.
Yeah, great. There's a lot of hubris in that. Why can't you just be happy? Or whenever I really think to myself, I'm never going to do anything with it, I think, well, maybe I should really just focus on house rules for this kind of stuff.
Right.
Rather than just making a whole game.
Right.
But then you lose that sense of power of, being, the driving force for something that you create yourself.
Right. And I think that a lot of game creators have to struggle with that. You don't want to make a game a mechanic that's so out there
just to be different.
Right. And
like when you were trying to describe the Dresden FU dice.
Yeah.
It just really kind of seemed really contrived to me. I'm like, man, did you really need to do that?
That system is called the Fate system.
Yes.
Fate system.
And that's derived from the Fudge system, which is actually the most used indie game out there. Fudge system is a universal system where the game master determines it is very loose rules. And you determine what, it's like you can have as many or as few stats as you want. Everything's derived by what you say. So it's, the character says he's not a 15th level fighter. He's a magnificent sword fighter. He's a magnificent duelist, things like that. And that determines things. It's how you describe things that gives you bonuses and things like that.
Oh. Yeah.
It's really out there, but a lot of people love it because number one, it focuses more on creativity, and number two, completely free.
Free is always good.
Free is good.
Yeah.
And the dice are kind of cool.
Yeah, they have their own specialized dice, which you can or cannot. You don't have to use.
Right.
I was going to say about specialized dice. That's not mutually exclusive to the indie games. That new Warhammer Fantasy game is gimmicky dice.
And I wonder how much of that. I mean, it's of course it's born from different board games and things like that. But how one plays off another, because talking about the Fate system or Fudge, and just reading about it and what it is, and the first thing that popped in my head. Because what it is it's clumps of rule sets that are very modular that you put together to make your game. You can use or not use some sections of these rule sets.
Sounds exactly like what they're doing with the
5th edition.
Next.
Exactly. That's exactly what they're doing. And so I'm reading this going, so obviously this isn't a new idea.
Tastemakers.
Yeah.
Or rather than be negative about it, you say, as I
maybe
say,
they've learned.
Good content rises to the top. The good things everybody gets to feed off of, and that's why it's like in the computer world it's called open source,
right?
And D&D did it with the open gaming license. This 3.5 thing, or this D20 based thing, this is a pretty good system that is generic enough that anybody can build off of. And people did, and then you get Pathfinder,
right?
And then the True 20, to be the best.
True 20 is great.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Maybe D&D Next, learn from the indie community and what the fans want, and was like, well, you know what, we can do that too. And it's almost like field testing an idea out in the community before bringing it in and using it. It's proven because people love it.
It's like the farm team,
Right, exactly.
Right.
Mining for good content.
Right,
It's like
exactly.
Detroit farms good players from the St. Louis Blues.
That's right. St. Louis is the farm team of the NHL.
Yes.
Let me talk about a couple other games that I like too that you may or may not be interested in. One's called Early Dark. It's kind of a Dark Ages game. It's very gritty and it's low fantasy, but the dice mechanic is pretty unique. Somebody sets a threshold or the game master sets a threshold of this is the total you need, and you roll your dice and then you clump them into sections. So if let's say the threshold's 7 and you roll D10s, and you've got 1, 7, a 4 and a 3, and then like whatever, however big your dice pool is. You separate them out however you want, keeping it hidden. Your opponent rolls the same, whatever numbers he has, and the threshold is 7, separates it out. Then you do a reveal, and like if he has one dice that's 7 or above, and I have one dice 7 or above, cancels out. And then that just determines, so you're doing multiple attacks with one roll. It's opposed. It's brutal. It is a brutal game.
I can see that.
But the dice mechanic, like I said, that's really simplifying it. It's pretty out there. So I think that when you're talking about complicated for complicated's sake, that's one of those games. Much like Alpha and Omega.
Alpha and Omega kind of got a bad rap because when we first got the book, we felt that the system was pretty daunting. Once we sat down and we played it at Gen Con, it wasn't nearly that bad.
No, it wasn't. It's just like anything else. You eventually learn it because you want to learn it, and they're not making it intentionally impossible.
Right.
It's just trying to wrap your brain around certain terms.
We had a guy sit down and explain to it in very
layman's terms.
Succinct terms. Yes, layman's terms, I suppose. Once we had somebody sit down and explain it to us, it was pretty simple. It just didn't read that way in the book.
My main problem with Alpha Omega was when we finally did play it, it was after a marathon of pain day of gaming at Gen Con, and my brain was just like, I can't deal with this.
And the Game Master
was very over the top, yes.
Yes, he was. Nice guy.
He was super nice.
Yeah. Another game that I wanted to mention that's up for this year is a game called Tools of Ignorance, which I thought is a really fascinating game for me personally. And let me tell you what it is. It's a baseball RPG.
Okay.
What?
Right.
That'll get Mike fired up.
No. You'll know what I'm thinking. You'll know what I'm thinking.
I'm already thinking baseball stars.
No.
I'm thinking Dave.
Exactly. It's the perfect gateway drug for our friend Dave.
Who refuses to game.
He refuses to RPG. Now listen to this.
But he plays all the
everything
Warhammer
else.
games.
Listen to what this game is all about. It's a baseball game simulator where you make up your own team and your own players. You manage your team, and then you role play the after stuff.
Oh, dear.
So like after the game, in the locker room?
In the locker room, your marriages, your agents trying to, get you to do this and do that. There's girls throwing themselves at you.
That blows my mind.
And this could be applied for any sport.
Right.
Holy cow.
It's a perfect gateway drug for your sports-minded friend who refuses to role play.
If we had 6
because
guys,
it's a completely stat and it's a skill. It's a simulated. You can simulate a pitch-by-pitch full game.
Holy cow. Wow. Then your trip to the dugout after you struck out.
Right. Exactly. And then
kicking rocks.
It's
getting mouth cancer.
It could be as finely minute as that, or you can sim a game with one roll of the dice.
It'd be interesting to do. We have enough people to do a hockey line.
Yeah.
A line in hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pass the puck, you hog.
So, like, will you stop hogging the puck? But it blew my mind.
Points.
It was one of those blow my mind moments where I was like, yes, I've heard of games where, things like this, but I was like, this is brilliant. This is the perfect game. If you made it football or, because football's way more popular than, baseball's a popular game, don't get me wrong. Football has the rabid fans. If you marketed this towards people who love fantasy football, you're in.
Football has a lot more after game drama too.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before, and we've never actually done it. But playing Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay,
as Blood Bowl team,
as a Blood Bowl team, and also playing Blood Bowl.
I want to do that so bad
as the team. I think that would be a lot of fun.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
but that's not really an indie game.
That would bring me back to Blood Bowl.
But within Games Workshop itself, Blood Bowl is where they call that.
Oh, it's a specialty game.
Specialist game, which means not in production.
Right.
Basically.
They produce one thing like every 4 years or something.
If not even that anymore.
So anyway, so that's the first thing I thought of when I read this was this would be hilarious to get Dave involved in because you would pitch it as a baseball game simulator where you get to make up your own team, a la Baseball Stars.
Which still to this day is the greatest baseball game ever made.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, the guy who made it is a guy named Clash Bowley. The man's a freaking genius. And the last game I want to talk about is one that's up for this year. It's called The Aegis Project. It's an epic sci-fi game made by a guy named John Wick. Do you know who John Wick is?
The name sounds really familiar.
He's the guy who made up L5R and 7th Sea.
Yep.
He made a sci-fi game. and it's up for.
Then it's gonna be good.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So those are the games that are up for this year. I'll be very interested to see which ones win, and those will most likely all be available at Gen Con, and I may have to pick up one or two.
I'm buying that John Wick game
or all
of them.
When you talk about the fudge system, it's those generic systems. The Fate system is Dresden Files. There's a couple other
Would you say
games.
GURPS is
GURPS, I don't think it's
kind of middle of the road.
GURPS is as much as I'm a fan of the idea, I always thought of it as kind of like the lazy man's game system.
Oh, it's a great system.
You can play any game you can think of without ever having to learn a new system. And that's really.
But isn't that what Fudge is? So
Fudge is
just the free version of GURPS, then?
Kind of, I guess.
Sort of.
I don't know enough about Fudge itself.
Fudge is rules light. Yeah. That's essentially all it is.
GURPS, not rules light.
Which reminds me, I'm mad at myself for doing it. I meant to bring. I actually have an indie game that I bought called Sword Noir, and it's a rules light sword and sorcery game. And I was going to show it to you guys to kind of peruse it before this. I wish I would have.
Simple is good.
Yes.
Yeah.
The indie game that I want to talk about and the one that I want to play is drum roll, please. Retropocalypse.
Retropocalypse.
Somebody went out and made a Fallout-based
Oh my god,
RPG.
that would be awesome.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Dweller, the whole
Yes.
9 yards. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
And then to go along with our post-apocalyptic theme is a game called Atomic Highway.
Yes.
A very Mad Max.
Right.
I just because I love Car Wars. I played Car Wars a little bit at the old shop that I used to run.
Right.
I just love that you trick out
Atomic
your car.
Highway
Mad Max
is available for free on RPG now.
Yes.
I know because I got it from there. That's actually a really good game. The guys from Cubicle 7, they promote that on their site also. I think it may be something like a friend of theirs or something like that.
Yeah, it's not a Cubicle 7 game, but yeah, it's...
There's a couple of other very highly talked about indie games that I wanted to mention. One of them, it's almost so perfect, I'm surprised we've not played it. It's a game called Fiasco.
Sounds great.
Okay? It's an open. It's an open start game, meaning much like the other game I was talking about, where you come to the table with no preconceived story idea. You sit down and you go, okay, where are we? What are we doing?
Sounds like a game for Deuce.
Well, okay, and then
I love that kind of idea.
But see, and then
I think that would be great.
You start somewhere, and then everything trickles down using the players' imaginations of what's going on. It's saying, like the example it gave was, it all started real nice. So and so were on a date, and then by the end of the night, they were in like a dug grave with surrounded by Mexicans pointing guns at them, wearing latex gloves and having Rottweilers barking at them. It's what it is. It's a game version of The Hangover or Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yes.
How did you get to this point?
Exactly. It's exactly it. You play the game, and everybody just kind of pitches in their own stuff, and it just spirals downhill. That's why it's called Fiasco.
Yeah,
that could make for an interesting actual play.
Yeah.
Actually, yes, it would.
A group effort to get somewhere.
And there are people who love this game. There's people who talk about it and as if they will never play any other game ever again because that game is so fun. It's a perfect party game. It's a game that you could play straight or drunk or whatever. You could play it any way, and probably the latter the better.
Yeah.
And then one last game I wanted to talk about is a game called Wushu, which is an interesting game. Have you heard of it?
No, I just know what Wushu is.
Oh, okay. Well, Wushu is billed as kind of like a Hong Kong cinema game. It's very action-packed. The reason being is you don't say, I'll try and hit the guy with my sword. You say, I slice my sword across his belly, spilling his entrails. The more dramatic you are, the more dice you get to resolve your action. Your action is resolved by your statement.
Right. How
cool it is resolved by your dice roll.
Wow.
The problem is to keep people from going completely over the top,
Yeah, I could see myself really going
anybody
nuts
at
with
the table, including the game master or any other player, can veto your action.
Bullshit.
Exactly. Somebody calls BS. And
You
then,
lost me.
See, so
Mark doesn't like anyone telling him no or failing at dice rolls.
Well, no, see, you don't fail. You don't fail. The dice rolls. The dice never fail you. You complete your action.
Then what's the point of rolling the dice then?
To see how effective it is.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So you're saying, I jump off the table and I stab him in the throat.
It might be a scratch. It might kill him.
The game master goes, okay, that'll give you 2 dice for that. But if you go, I jump over the table, grabbing his face, flipping him over Singham style.
Singham.
Singham
would always win that game.
Singham.
Nobody could tell Singham no.
That's right. Because he'd just do it.
Right. So, but yeah, those are the games I wanted to bring up. A lot of them sound like they would be
really
a lot
good
of fun.
ideas. Yeah,
I'd be interested to maybe look some of these up at Gen Con if somebody's running